This is Inside the Right. Tim, we have the big debate between Tim Walz and JD Vance to look forward to this evening. So ahead of this debate, what are you looking out for, and what does success look like for Walz? What does success look like for Vance?
Yeah, I'm here in New York. I'm ready to be there for the debate. I'm hoping that it goes as well for Tim Walz as it did for Kamala Harris, so I can do some more trash talking in the spin room. But look, what I'm looking for from Tim Walz is, well, for both of them, what they both have to do is reassure the audience that they're up for the job. And I think obviously that's particularly astute in JD Vance, considering that he's on a ticket of somebody that's 78 years old. They'll be older than Joe Biden, if he were to become president, God forbid, and Donald Trump. But also for Tim Walz because he's such a new guy on the scene. I think that there's a certain type of person out there that's really just still looking at the Harris Walz ticket and just making sure they feel comfortable with them in charge. It's not a huge percentage of people, but it's a significant percent. And so he's got to demonstrate electability. I think he has also got to continue to demonstrate this contrast with Vance on likability, approachability, comfort, right? Like affability. Like I want to have a beer with this guy. JD Vance gives me the creeps, right? Like continuing to push that contrast. And then I think that he's going to have to rebut JD Vance's very aggressive attacks on the Harris Walz ticket. And like this is that third part is I think the thing that's going to be the most challenging for him and the thing that makes me a little nervous about the debate tomorrow from the Harris Walz perspective because JD Vance is like really bad at almost everything, but he used to be one of us. He's a pundit. He's a talking head.
Right.
Like he knows the Oppo book. Like Donald Trump's attacks on Kamala Harris in that debate were like nonsense. It was just word salad. And I forget the eating the dogs, which is like a racist lie. But on top of that, like he wasn't enunciating a clear, what we call a hit in politics, like a clear hit on the other side. Like you did this bad, you changed your mind on this, you did this wrong. JD Vance is not going to be incoherent tomorrow. He'll be a lot of things, he'll be appealing, but he will be coherent and he'll be able to deliver an attack. And Walz is going to have to be able to counter punch. And luckily for him, there's a lot to work with there.
And what do you think the most potent line of attack? What's the most potent hit that Tim Walz should be looking to land on JD Vance would be?
I think the most potent attack for Walz on Vance is undermining his authenticity, right? You are a phony. You are a fake. Like this is not your real self. We know it's not the real you. You know it's not the real you, right? And I think that obviously everybody goes back to the you called Trump America's Hitler thing, but there's a whole laundry list of things in that vein. I mean, JD Vance was me. He was a moderate Republican. Like he thought climate change was a real problem. He was for advancing gay rights and trans rights. He was for criminal justice reform. Like he was one of these soft. I don't know about the cops. I think didn't he text his friend, "I hate the police." Actually, like so he was a center to center left Republican that has flipped into becoming a MAGA crazy. That gives Tim Walz a lot to work with, and especially somebody like Tim Walz who is so comfortable in his own skin, who is who he is, right? And so I think that creating that contrast with Vance, I think is going to be really, really important. And I also just think reminding people again, he's young. He doesn't have any experience. He hasn't accomplished that much. A couple of his sugar daddies have got him into this spot. And is this person somebody you really feel comfortable with being in charge of the country?
Do you think that Walz is going to be effective enough at exploiting the weird Christo-fascist views that JD Vance was so quick to espouse on his whole far right podcast circuit that he's done over the last few years? His stuff about women, about families that don't have children, just those views in particular.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of that stuff is baked in. That's why I kind of like the flip-flop, the anti-authenticity attack on him a
Right.
little bit better. But look, yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, of course, you should go after him on the childless cat ladies. Of course, on this, you see Kamala HQ. If you follow them on any social media, they'll tweet out every couple days a new clip from JD Vance sounding like a lunatic on some podcast where he talks about how single women without babies are deranged, are the most deranged people in the country, and how they're ruining the country. So, that the Kamala team has all of that, and that they're prepping Walz with it. And so, I do think so. I guess I just would caution again. JD Vance will be smooth at this. at trying at pushing back on Walz on this sort of stuff. And so, I think that Walz cannot like this is not a debate where you're trying to win this debate on points. Walz has to be affable, jovial, up for the job, and then also remind people about JD Vance's extremism. He doesn't need to get back into a tete-a-tete with JD Vance and try to
Right.
win like it's a debate club and you're scoring on points.
Right. I think that's a great point. I think a lot of the issue for the Harris Walz ticket is that people just don't know enough about them. It's clear that Trump and Vance are unlikable, that they're weird, that they're dangerous. They've already proven as much. So I don't know that the onus is on Tim Walz so much to do that. I don't know that he has to bring sand to the beach, so to speak. Like people have
Yeah.
already got that baked in. At this point, really, the benefit for him is just to do what he can to land a few moments where he can really convey what his beliefs are so that it gives somebody an affirmative reason to go ahead and vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, as opposed to just continuing to beat down on this idea that we just have to vote against Donald Trump and JD Vance. Moving over to the debate moderators, because this is usually some iteration of the story unto itself, CBS has come out and said that the moderators won't affirmatively fact check the candidates, and that the onus will be on the candidates themselves to do that if that's how they want to use their time. I say this with the caveat that and we've spoken about this in the past, that when you're complaining about the moderators, you're usually losing.
Yeah.
But I do still want to know what your thoughts are about this idea that instead of, you know, instead of these journalists using the opportunity to spread correct information, accurate information, which is ostensibly the job of a journalist, they're kind of relegating that position to the candidates themselves.
So this might be a scenario where you and I debate a little bit. I don't know. Look, I have a lot of respect for Norah O'Donnell and the CBS moderators. I think that they're going to do a good job. I think that it's important. It will be incumbent upon every media outlet to be very clear about about JD Vance's lies, which he will make, about JD Vance's racism, which I'm sure he'll engage in, and sexism. Like all that should be reported on very clearly. I've been critical recently. I think Donald Trump's uh, rallies over the weekend were absolutely insane, and he was advancing these sort of same conspiratorial, racist, nativist arguments he's made in the past, but even making them more ominous than he has in the past. And I think that in a lot of places, the media has fallen down on covering that. I just, in the debate setting, it's just so hard. I just think that it's too much to expect the moderators to be able to fact check, be in the moment, be certain that they're right, be certain that they have the fact correctly, and be fair about it. Because and not give any fodder to the Republicans. Be like, well, you didn't fact check Tim Walz when he didn't say a true thing one time, and like I just think that is the point of the debate. It's for Tim Walz and JD Vance to go back and forth, and Tim Walz should go at JD Vance. And so I just don't feel that passionately about moderators interjecting with fact checks.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do feel like, just to play devil's advocate on this, I feel like the Democrat, Tim Walz, using his time not to make a case on whatever issue he's talking about, but instead rebutting the inevitable disinformation that's spewed by JD Vance, is just it's the cycle that we always get caught in. Instead of being able to talk about whatever narrative it is that we want to talk about, we're left just kind of cleaning up the mess that's spewed by Republicans. We're left cleaning up, the shit that's been thrown out by Republicans while they engage in this Steve Bannon model of flooding the zone with shit instead of making an affirmative case. And I think that actually is the strategy by Republicans, so that Democrats can't make an affirmative case on anything, that we have to just play on their terrain, basically engage in this confused narrative where we're still trying to make the case to clean up for what they said, and people may or may not believe it. People may not be listening anymore after the Republicans' claim was already made, and so this is just more of what we've heard from Republicans for so long, where they want kind of carte blanche to say whatever they want to say, to spew their disinformation, and it's just the onus is on the Democrats to use our time not to make our affirmative case, but instead to clean up the lies that are spewed by the right.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. It's a challenging situation. This is what happens when you're dealing with a party that has just become completely mendacious and just lies about everything without
Yeah.
impunity. And it's almost like it's a positive to be a liar, right, within the Republican Party right now. Like you get points if you're owning the libs with the best lie with the voters. So I agree that it's unfair. I think that it's horrific that why do the Democrats and the never Trumpers like why do we have to be the adults in the room every time? Like why is the responsibility? There is an imbalance. It is unfair. And I think that if there is a clean moment for a fact check, I'm open to it. I think that sometimes in these debates, I think it puts the moderators in a very, very tough situation. And frankly, it has backfired before. Like if you looked back in the 2012 in that debate with Candy Crowley, where she fact checked Mitt on something that like it was it was just borderline, right? It was a borderline fact check, and then that became the narrative around the debate. Like, was Candy Crowley right to fact check him? Was he not? Was she not? And it's like, is that what this stuff's supposed to be about? So anyway, I think it has to be a very clean opportunity if they're going to do it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I guess we'll see later on this evening. So we will, of course, try to get back together to do kind of a post-debate wrap-up. And good luck in the spin room there. For those who are watching right now, to support the work that Tim and his team are doing, this invaluable work where they give a permission structure for Republicans, former Republicans, independents, to know that it's not an inevitability that you have to vote for Donald Trump or consume pro-Trump media. Please make sure to subscribe to The Bulwark. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Tim Miller.
This is Inside the Right.